Xi Jinping appears to be flipping the Taiwan War script on the United States and its East Asian allies. China is exploring a new approach route for any future move on Taiwan, one that could stun US and Japanese planners. Washington's Cold War-era deterrent, the so-called First Island chain, may be failing, as Xi's navy finds ways to escape the trap. China's carrier base in the South China Sea could effectively become Xi's floating war room in a Taiwan invasion. New analysis reveals why the Hainan Island base is emerging as a key asset for China in any future conflict. China's aircraft carrier base on Hainan Island could prove extremely useful in a future Pacific conflict, giving the PLA Navy a southern springboard far from its older northern ports. Analysts say the Hainan base could help China counter US containment along the First Island chain, by letting carrier groups slip out to sea from a less expected direction. These assessments come from a Chinese military magazine, as cited in reports on May 24, highlighting how Chinese strategists themselves see Hainan's role. The same analysis suggests the base could support a maritime blockade around Taiwan, helping China cut off sea lanes during a conflict. The Hainan base sits in the South China Sea on Hainan Island itself, positioned to the south of Taiwan but still close enough to influence the strait. It is also located at a more comfortable distance from many US and Japanese strike assets, making Chinese carriers there harder to hit quickly. By contrast, China's earlier carrier bases along the Yellow Sea and Bohai Sea coast were much closer to US and Allied forces, and easier to watch and threaten. In wartime, carrier groups sailing from Hainan could transit through the Bashi or Balintang channels to enter the open Pacific, outflanking some existing defenses. These two channels, located near the northern Philippines, are directly accessible from Hainan and offer China alternative routes beyond the First Island chain. They are also considered relatively less defended segments of the US-Japan First Island chain, which traditionally focused more on choke points to Taiwan's north. On top of the carrier base, China has deployed land-based missile and surveillance systems on Hainan and nearby outposts, thickening its defensive umbrella. Those systems could help counter possible US strikes and support the safe movement of Chinese carriers in and out of the region. All of this makes Hainan increasingly relevant in any Taiwan Strait contingency, especially if China seeks to attack from multiple directions at once. The Chinese magazine said, and I quote, "In a Taiwan Strait conflict scenario, carrier strike groups operating from Hainan could advance from the south and southwest of Taiwan to help establish maritime and air control. Such deployments could complicate or disrupt US and Japanese reinforcement efforts towards Taiwan via the Philippines and the Bashi Channel, while also coordinating with People's Liberation Army forces operating in the East China Sea and the Taiwan Strait to form a broader encirclement posture." In this context, Chinese carrier groups would no longer function merely as vulnerable targets within the First Island chain, but instead as a central component of Beijing's efforts to deter or deny external military intervention in a Taiwan contingency. Unquote. The Sonya Naval Complex on Hainan serves as the home base for China's newest carriers, the Shandong and the Fujian, which are central to this strategy. China's older carrier, the Liaoning, remains based in Qingdao with the North Sea Fleet, giving Beijing two distinct carrier hubs in the north and the south. The Sonya complex also includes the Yulin Naval Base, a major hub for surface ships and submarines, further boosting China's long-range maritime reach from Hainan. China has deployed the Liaoning carrier group into the Western Pacific for extended live-fire naval exercises far from the mainland coastline. According to the People's Liberation Army Navy, the drills included tactical flight operations, live-fire events, and search and rescue missions conducted in open waters. Chinese military analyst Zhang Junshi said the exercises would improve realistic combat capabilities, according to Defense Security Asia. Zhang added that the drills also served as a strong deterrent against what Beijing describes as Taiwan independence forces in the region. The carrier deployment is believed to be operating near the Philippine Sea and waters east of the Bashi Channel. Chinese officials stated that the exercises are not directed at any specific country and are being conducted in accordance with international law. The Liaoning entered service in 2012 as the PLA Navy's first fully operational aircraft carrier platform. It uses a ski-jump-style flight deck configuration designed to support operations involving Shenyang J-15 fighter jets. The strike group includes guided missile destroyers, frigates, and embarked J-15 carrier fighters operating alongside the carrier. The deployment also includes rotary wing aviation units and long-range support operations to sustain missions at extended distances. Military analysts say the Liaoning is helping the PLA Navy develop a more integrated carrier strike group doctrine for future operations. Experts say Chinese operations east of Taiwan are intended to expand PLA Navy access to wider Pacific maritime routes. Military planners reportedly view waters east of Taiwan as strategically important in the event of any future regional conflict. China's growing naval presence is also increasing the complexity of defensive planning for Taiwan and its regional partners. The deployment is placing additional pressure on maritime routes frequently used by US and Japanese naval forces operating in the Pacific. Analysts say China is gradually normalizing military operations around Taiwan through repeated aircraft carrier deployments and patrol missions. The live-fire element of the drills is also viewed as a shift toward more realistic preparation for high-intensity combat scenarios. Japan has increased monitoring of PLA Navy movements near Okinawa and the Ryukyu Islands. Analysts warn that increasing military activity in crowded Pacific waters raises the possibility of miscalculation or unintended incidents. China's expanding aircraft carrier operations are increasingly viewed as a challenge to long-standing US-led naval dominance in the region. The latest deployment is also seen as part of China's transition from a coastal defense force into a broader global naval power. PLA Navy carrier groups are now operating farther from mainland logistical support than at any previous point in their development. Analysts say China's long-term objective is to build a navy capable of sustained operations across the wider Pacific theater. The exercises come amid heightened diplomatic activity in China, contributing to renewed concerns over tensions surrounding Taiwan. A Chinese Coast Guard ship was involved in a tense standoff with Taiwanese vessels, bringing rival ships from both sides face to face near disputed waters. According to Taiwan's Coast Guard, the Chinese vessel only left waters near the Pratas Islands after an extended round of verbal sparring over the radio. Taiwan says it first spotted the Chinese ship heading directly towards the Pratas on May 23, triggering immediate concern in Taipei. Taipei then dispatched one of its own Coast Guard ships to the area, broadcasting warnings over loudspeaker and radio for the Chinese vessel to leave, according to reports. The two sides soon became locked in a heated argument over sovereignty via radio, each insisting the waters around the islands belonged to them. China's crew stated over the radio that they were on a routine mission and that Beijing has jurisdiction over the Pratas, language that Taiwan found especially provocative. Taiwanese officials later said China's choice of words on jurisdiction, as well as the length of time the ship lingered near the islands, were both unusual and worrying. The Chinese ship eventually turned away and began sailing out of the area in the late afternoon on May 24, easing immediate tensions but not the underlying fears. Separately, Taiwan's Coast Guard says it also drove away a Chinese research vessel for the second time this month, underscoring how frequent such encounters have become. On May 24, Taiwan security chief revealed that around 100 Chinese ships were operating inside the so-called First Island Chain, a belt of sea stretching along East Asia's front line. The First Island Chain is a strategic arc that runs from Japan, through Taiwan and down to the Philippines, seen by Beijing and Washington as a key military boundary. The Pratas Island itself lies roughly between southern Taiwan and Hong Kong, making it a small but important outpost in contested waters. Because Pratas is about 400 kilometers from Taiwan's main island, it is relatively isolated and considered highly vulnerable to a sudden Chinese move. Adding to those concerns, Pratas is only lightly defended by Taiwan's Coast Guard, rather than by heavy military forces, making it a tempting target in a crisis. This latest escalation comes as tensions between China and Taiwan soar in the wake of Donald Trump's visit to Beijing and his decision to pause a major arms sale to Taipei. The Taiwan issue emerged as a major point in talks that were otherwise dominated by the conflict involving Iran and the wider Middle East crisis. During their closed-door discussions, Xi warned Trump that US support for Taiwan, if pushed too far, could lead to clashes and conflicts between Washington and Beijing. He reportedly went further, saying that if the Taiwan issue was mishandled, the United States and China could come into conflict, leaving little doubt about where China's red lines lie. Subsequently, the official White House readout on the summit appeared to skip any mention of Taiwan, adding to the sense that the topic was too sensitive to spell out publicly. Trump also seemed to dodge a question on Taiwan during his choreographed visit to the Temple of Heaven with Xi, reinforcing the impression that he did not want to publicly provoke Beijing on camera.
Did you talk about Taiwan?
Great place, great, incredible. China's beautiful.
At the same time, Taiwan declared that it would maintain close ties with the United States following Xi's threat, signaling that Taipei has no intention of backing away from its key security partner. Xi Jinping, for his part, said that US-China ties were the most important in the world and insisted we must never mess it up, underlining the paradox of a relationship that is vital yet constantly strained over Taiwan.